My name is Kathy Peters, married to Alan, and we have lived in Bushey for just over 4 years. We have 2 daughters, one living in Edgware and the other in Manchester. When Rabbi Nick mentioned the Thought for the Day initiative, I didn't really think that I had any particular thoughts to convey, but as time has moved on, certain things have crystallised in my mind. I need to go back to last November, which was when I had a certain feeling of foreboding. The virus had been mentioned in the news, but other things were happening around the world which upset me. The fires in Australia, floods in South America, flooding here in the UK, to name but a few, made me think that someone up there didn't like what was going on down here. This was my constant mantra. I was even affected by the sad death of Caroline Flack, who meant nothing to me, but the words "be kind," which followed this tragedy, somehow resonated with me. Everything seemed to be about a me society. Alan and I went to Israel at the beginning of March to see our grandson who was at yeshiva. This is when the seriousness of this pandemic really hit me. I wiped down everything in our seats on the plane, used hand sanitizer wherever we went, and noticed that gradually things were changing in Israel. When we landed at Ben Gurion, we were struck by the number of El Al planes on the ground. Our hotel in Jerusalem was devoid of tour groups. We hardly saw an Oriental face, which was unusual, as there have always been large tour groups from the Far East. The restaurants weren't so busy, and the Great Synagogue on Shabbat was relatively empty. Our last week was spent in Eilat, and we were there for Purim. Yes, there were people, but it wasn't crowded. On the Thursday night and Friday, Eilat had a storm, the likes of which people who had lived there all their lives had never seen. All day and night, the winds and rain lashed everything. Again, my mantra came to mind. Someone up there doesn't like what's going on down here. The devastation of Eilat on that Shabbat morning was terrible to witness. Palm trees and beach umbrellas ripped out of the ground. Shops and restaurants on the seafront flooded during the storm with sand and seawater. But my faith in humanity was restored as we walked around and saw how all the local people had got busy in groups helping to clear up the mess. During this time, we heard that the yeshivot were closing and sending their students home. So our grandson's time at his yeshiva was being cut short too. We flew back to the UK on the Sunday as planned, the day that Israel effectively began shutting down. All hotels closed, the airport was full of people trying to get home. All shops except food courts were closed, and again on the plane I wiped everything down. On the flight home I devised a plan. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to my life. If things aren't organised or there is uncertainty, I get very nervous. Our aim as soon as we arrived was to go shopping, get organised for Pesach, and have my nail varnish removed. I couldn't do anything about my hair. In those first few days before lockdown, we visited Tesco, Costco, Flax, Kosher Deli and Kosher Kingdom. My biggest difficulty, which caused me so much stress, was to get online shopping slots with Tesco, Sainsbury's and Waitrose. As we'd suddenly become elderly overnight, I was determined to get these slots. Several emails to CEOs and constant phone calls had us on the priority lists. I'd worked for over 50 years, virtually non-stop, and even on retirement 2 years ago was so busy that I didn't know how I'd had time to work. My feeling at this time was, stop the world, I want to get off. It was all too much. Someone up there certainly didn't like what was going on down here. Our other stress was our family. Both of our daughters were ill, one possibly with COVID, the other, just confirmed by the antibody test, did not have it, but had a virus for almost 6 weeks. Both are school teachers and have had to teach their classes remotely for the entire time since schools closed, ill or not. They were working harder now than they've ever done before. One grandson has had his GCSEs cancelled, another his A-levels. Our yeshiva boy came home, and our year 10 and year 9 grandchildren appeared quite unaffected at first. The older grandsons have had to rethink their lives for the future. no year out for one, and maybe a change of university degree or direction for the other. Yeshiva has continued on Zoom, but both boys are now feeling that they would like some sort of normality in their lives, although they're praying for a better and kinder world and are concerned about how things will progress as our country gradually opens up again, and hope there won't be a second spike. Our Year 10 granddaughter loves having her lessons online. She's suddenly motivated, says there's no one disrupting her lessons, no distractions, and would be quite happy to continue learning this way. Our GCSE grandson has been totally devastated by all of this and is only now coming slowly to terms with what he has no control over. Alan and I are really quite comfortable in our own little social bubble. Our life has totally changed. We're enjoying the beautiful weather, our garden, beautiful bushy, and we see and talk to our family via phone, computer, and the occasional visit to drop off some shopping. I'm cooking more, reading more, and keeping in touch with people who I haven't been in touch with for ages. Yes, we miss the general social interaction with friends and family. We miss going to shul. Our Shabbat and Yom Tov services at home have allowed us to really think about our davening, as well as taking time to understand the Sidrot and Haftorahs. Seder for two was really an interesting experience. I'm in no hurry to get back on the treadmill of life before lockdown. However, I feel for all of those who suffered illness and bereavement during this time. The huge numbers of people who have died as a result of this virus is really heartbreaking. I worry for all those less fortunate, living in cramped conditions, perhaps in an abusive relationship. The latest devastation in America and around the world following the death of George Floyd shows that things still haven't changed enough. It's easy to forget those less fortunate than us. The acts of kindness within our community and outside are really heartwarming. I'm hoping that soon someone up there will begin to like what is going on down here, although I'm still nowhere near ready to say, stop the world, I want to get on.